Hello, I'm Jerry Stewart with another of my what I call God stories. You know, God is always the leading character in any of the greatest stories, and I love when I have an opportunity to tell a great story that God is the lead character. It was my birthday, Christmas Eve, been a little over a week ago, and we had big plans. Kelly had decided that she was going to, even though it was the day before Christmas, she was going to make a big deal of my birthday, just between, just the small group here, but we were going to have a good time. And so we were going to get up early in the morning on Christmas Eve, and we were going to go out and have some pancakes, then we were going to go to a movie, then we were going to come back and watch some football and just have a good day. It was going to be a good time. Well, we have been having a problem for quite a long time with the lights and the electricity in our house. So normally the lights are always dimming, and then they'll flicker back up, and then they'll dim. And especially if you turn on a number of lights, or if you turn on the washing machine, or if you turn on the air conditioning or the heater, the lighting will fluctuate. And quite frankly, I had been really quite concerned about that. Obviously, we didn't want there to be anything that could cause a fire, naturally. And the main thing, though, was that I was concerned that we were going to somehow be told by a professional that this meant that we had bad wiring, and that somehow the wiring in our house was going to have to be replaced. Yipes. So I had said, look, let's just wait until after Christmas, and then we'll call in our electric company, or we'll call an electrician, and we'll see what the deal is. So we agreed to that. Well, that morning of my birthday, of course, it wasn't going to be any different. The lights were going to be going up and down in their lumens, or their light, and then getting dimmer and then brighter. So about 30 minutes before we were to get up, it's about 6:30, all of a sudden, beep, 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 and it would not stop. It was not one smoke alarm. It was all 7 smoke alarms in our house. Beep, 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 beep. And Kelly's dad was staying here with us for a little while and visiting. And he came out of his room and said, "What's going on? Beep, 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 beep." And so I was running all over the place trying to figure out. Now, we had one of the alarms go off when we were here before. And the answer or reason why was because we were told that if your battery gets low, that your alarm can sense that the battery's low, and it will tip you off. So you'll always have a backup to your electricity with a good battery. So I had never had it happen, though, this way, where all 7 were going off at the same time. And it was deafening. Beep, 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 beep. And it kept going and going and going and going. And I got a big long broom handle and kind of, tapped on one of them to see if maybe they would slow down or stop or something. They would not stop. So then I thought, well, maybe the breaker kicked off and they're all on the same breaker, and when the breaker went off, now there's no power to the smoke alarms. So I went outside and checked. That wasn't it. So I'm walking around trying to figure out what to do, and I said, Kelly, that's my wife's name. I said, Kelly, please call the local, someone in our city that maybe could give us an idea what we should do. Well, she had a hard time getting in touch with anyone because, of course, it was a Saturday, and it was Christmas Eve, and it was very early in the morning, like only shortly after 7 a.m. Finally, she got someone, and they said, well, it's not our department. We don't really have anything to do with this. But she said, maybe you should call your electric company, but no need to bother them today. It's the day before Christmas. It's a Saturday. They're not working today. And so wait until Monday, and let's see if we can get them in to come and take a look sometime next week. Now, if you, like me, if you ever call anybody regarding your water or your electric or your heating or whatever from the city or from any service company, they don't come the same day. And usually they can't really get to you until something after the next day. So the woman said, well, is this an emergency? And we said, no, except for the fact that we can't even hear ourselves think. And she says, well, I guess you're going to have to change all the batteries. And I said, well, I don't know if that's going to work, but I said, okay. So we hung up the phone, and I decided that I would go ahead and call our actual electric company, just a chance to see if they could give me any other clue as to what was happening. Now remember, this lighting going up and down had been going on for quite a number of months. My alarms had not been going off, and so it all just seemed crazy. And of course it was my birthday, and the clock was ticking, and the pancakes were flying away. It was getting ready to be too late to go to the movie. It was mostly about trying to figure out what to do with our electric problem. Well, I decided to go ahead and call the electric company that services and provides our electricity. They're called Encore. And I called, and I wasn't surprised when I got a voice on the phone, and it said, this is Encore, and we're closed today, and we won't be back open until Monday. So if you want to call us on Monday, then we will find out what's going on with you, and then we'll try to make arrangements to get to your house sometime next week. Well, I didn't leave a name or anything because there was no need. There was nothing that they could do that day, and I was trying to find out how to get the alarms to quit blaring. Well, I put down the phone. About 10 seconds later, beep, 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 beep. They all stopped simultaneously. And I looked at Kelly, and I looked, and I thought, wow, that's good. That was horrible. But how do we know it's not going to come back in a few minutes again? So I abandoned the idea to go for the pancakes. And I instead was on my way out my front door to go to the garage door and bring in my big tall ladder, because we have tall ceilings. I was going to change the batteries on all 7 of the smoke alarms. And just as I was about to open my door, I have a little side window by my door, and I look out, and there's a service truck out in front of my house, kind of halfway blocking my driveway. And I'm like, who are those people? And as I walked out, I was shocked. It said Encore. That was my electric company. Now, Saturday, Christmas Eve, they said they weren't open. They didn't take any information from me. I thought to myself, what in the world could it be? Maybe someone else called earlier, and maybe they've got an emergency, and so Encore's out here. So I'm going to go up and tell them my problem and see if they can tell me anything about my own problem. So I walked out there to the fellow, and he's busily working there, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, are you here to work on someone's house?" "Yes," he said, "we received a call, and I'm out here." And I said, "Really, is somebody else in my neighborhood having an electrical problem? Because I am too." He looked at the order, and he said, "Are you 436?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "The order came from you." I said, I didn't talk to anybody. I didn't leave my address. I didn't leave any information, because when I saw that you were closed today, I just put the phone down. He said, "Got the order right here. Here it is." Plus, he had come so quickly. It was less than 30 minutes since we had called. You never have a company, one of these fix-it companies, they never come in like less than 30 minutes on a Saturday, on Christmas Eve. They just don't. But here he was. And so I just said, "Well, wow. Thank you, Lord." I didn't understand what was going on. So I said, "Well, what are you going to do?" He says, "Well, tell me the problem." So I told him about the alarms going off. And he looked at me kind of peculiarly. And then he said, "In all my 6 years working for this company, I have never experienced all of your smoke alarms going off at the same time, and they're not being smoked somewhere. Have you checked all your rooms and everything?" I said, "Yes, I even checked the attic. And there is no smoke." And he said, "That's very strange. I've never seen that before." I said, "Well, it stopped a few minutes ago, but it's been going for a little while." And he just said, And I said, "So, but there's something else." He said, "Okay, what?" And that's when I explained the issue of the electricity, the power going down and then flickering, going up and down. Not even on any kind of a pattern, but just kind of up and down, up and down, and down, up and down, just inconsistent. And he said, "Oh." So he went over and got one of his little gizmos to check something, and he goes over to the side of my house, and he says, "Oh, my gauge here says that the electricity coming into your house is what he called intermittent," meaning it was inconsistent. It wasn't staying level. He said that could cause your lights to flicker. And I said, "Okay, now what?" He said, "Well, we've got to go find the main box, the transformer box, where it splits off and goes into the individual homes, and see if there's something wrong with your spot with all of those big, huge cables coming in." So we walked around, and he had a little gauge that could tell him it could find the cables, the box. And he said, "Oh, look, it's over in your neighbor's yard." And we kind of peeked over, and we could see that they had it was a big box, like about so. And he said, "There it is." And he said, "We need to get back there." And I said, "Well, the neighbors aren't home. We're picking up their mail, but I can call them now and make sure that it's okay that we go back in their yard." And so I called them, and they answered. They were out of town, and they said, "Sure, absolutely. Can you go back there with him?" And I said, "Yes, I'll be right there." So we walked around to the other side of his house, where the neighbor's house, where the gate was, and we walked in. Now, the electric repairman really wasn't saying much. He was just kind of taking it all in, kind of watching. But I kept talking to him about the Lord, and I talked to him about my Santa Claus story the week or so before, and I figured, I'm just annoying this guy. But I just kind of tried to keep my mouth shut, hard for me. And he said, okay, here's the box. And he got the top off of it. And when I looked down there, I saw these big cables coming into this box. And then they split off into 3 individual cables, and each house had their own cable going to their house. And it was covered with a big rubber connector. And so I said, oh, he said, yes, each of you have one of these, and we're going to check and see what they all look like. Well, he pulled the rubber on one of them down, and it wasn't mine, it was on one of the neighbors, and the 2 cables came together so nicely, and they had a big bolt that was holding them together, and he tried to wiggle it, didn't wiggle. He said, this one is fine. And so then he went over to the next one, and he said, oh, this one's 436, this one's yours, right? I said, yeah. And he pulls it down, and when he pulled it down, those 2 cables coming together looked like the cables on a car battery that hasn't been used or has been overused. You know, just looked all corroded and just was not connected well. You could see that there was not a good connection. And he said, oh. And then he went over, and while holding one cable, he took the other cable, and he was able to just move them. There was not a good connection. He said, that is your problem. So he went out to his truck. He got the fix-it part to fix it, and he put the new part on, and he said, okay, let's go back. So we took off. He said, now go inside your house, and while I'm checking the box over to your right of your house, he said, turn on everything in your house. Turn on all your lights, turn on your washing machine, turn on your everything you've got, your fan for your heater in your house, turn it all on. And I noticed when I came in the house that all of the lights were brighter, and they weren't going down. They were just bright. And I said, oh, good thing. And my wife, Kelly, says, wow, what happened? The lights are so bright now. And so we looked around, tried to run everything, and the lights did not dim. And I walked outside. By this time, the electrician, the repairman, is kind of getting a little into it, you know. He's kind of trying to, my enthusiasm is kind of wearing over a little bit, I guess you'd say. He goes, it looks good. He said, all the dimming is gone. I said, yeah. And I said, so what does that have to do with the alarms going off? He said, nothing to do with the alarms going off. And I just stood there and looked at him, and I just said, wow, today's my birthday. He said, oh, happy birthday. And I said, and God has given me a wonderful present for my birthday. It started out to be like everything was kind of getting washed up. Plus I was worrying and concerned every day that all of that flickering and the increase lights and decrease made me nervous. That something was going on with my electricity. It made me nervous. I could even say made me frightened and concerned. I didn't want anything to happen to our house, and certainly not to my family. And I looked at him and I said, I don't know where you are in your life, man. I said, but God is always doing things for me. But I cannot remember ever getting a special birthday present on the day of my birthday. And how amazing it was that God did it. In the morning, before anybody woke up, set off all the alarms, all of us running around, going crazy trying to figure out what's the problem, not calling our repair people, and they show up. They say, you called us, and I didn't. All that I did was listen to their voicemail. And he comes out, and he kind of got a nice little smile on his face. And he said, happy birthday, man. I said, boy, happy birthday. And I said, God bless you. And he said, God bless you. And he drove off. Well, it was still time to go get the pancakes. It was still time to go to the movie. Everything worked out so nicely, but the greatest part of the whole day, when we got to the restaurant to have those pancakes, I went from table to table telling everyone what a glorious Lord that we have. Yeah. So, I encourage you, get your friends, get your family to come over and take a listen to this story. Don't ever wonder if God is interested in you. First of all, He's interested in your soul. He wants you to be saved. He wants you to be right with Him. He wants to be your Heavenly Father. Next, just be thankful for all of the things that God has done for us. Our country's in a tough spot. God gave our founding fathers this country. Now we need to be praying and praying and praying that God will straighten our nation out and He will get back to being the true Father of our nation, America. Thanks so much. Oh, by the way, I have YouTube. This is getting ready to go up on YouTube. That's where you're watching it from. And subscribe. Please subscribe and have as many of your friends subscribe as possible. Doesn't cost a thing. All the subscription does is it gives you a notice when another one of my podcasts or movies go up on my sites. Thank you so much. Have a good start to your new year. Bye-bye.